Well, guys, tech and gaming reviews here. So, I want to talk a little bit about the PlayStation 4 and just the last generation console situation that a lot of people are still talking about, with games still coming on the last gen console such as the PlayStation 4. Now, before we actually start the video overall, I just want to give an update real quick that we might actually be moving back to our old apartment complex that we recently, a while ago, lived in. Now, I essentially got done with applying, and either today or tomorrow, I'm going to officially hear whether if we got it yet or not. But if we do, which we're most likely going to with our good history that we have, but once we do, our PC is immediately going to be the first thing that we're going to be packing up. So there is definitely a good chance that this is probably going to be the last webcam video for pretty much probably a month or possibly a couple months or such. But just wanted to clear that out for you guys that, yeah, we might actually finally be moving within a month, depending on if we get this property. Now, I want to talk about the last gen systems and such like that, with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, because I have watched Dreamcast Guy's video, I think it was either yesterday or possibly the day before, but he essentially made a video talking about the PlayStation 4 just needs to die. But this is the problem that we're kind of getting into. Now, if you get the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X versions of these cross-gen games, you are definitely going to see that they are going to look and play better and smoother than they do on the older systems. But with the way the game budgets are going high through the roof is what I'm trying to say. Spider-Man 2, okay, for an example, Spider-Man 1, 2018 for the PlayStation 4, it cost Insomniac $110 million. But Spider-Man 2, which was just released last October, so basically a year ago, it was also a really lot of money. But guess how much it cost for Insomniac to make Spider-Man 2? We are talking $300 to $350 million. That is insane. That is a lot. And even though they made that game exclusively for the PlayStation 5, this is where third-party games and third-party developers are still going to try to make as much use out of the last-gen consoles. I kind of screwed up there. But they're going to still try to make some usage out of the last-gen consoles because, well, they're most likely going to sell more copies. And there are still, if you remember a few months ago, there was a report that has stated that half of the PlayStation player base was still using a PlayStation 4 or gaming on a PlayStation 4. And to bring things into matter, this was people that did not have a PlayStation 5. This is people that were still rocking with their 2013 or 2016 upgraded PlayStation 4 Pro. This was people that were still rocking with either a slim OG PS4 or PS4 Pro because they really just don't play a lot of games. And then when you got games like Warzone, Fortnite, Apex Legends, and such that's free to play, there's going to be some gamers out there that are going to be like, okay, yeah, I don't really care about graphics as long as I can play these games. I will just stick to this console and not waste money. And I got families to take care of. This is what I'll stick with. And honestly, this is where I'm kind of thinking that third-party developers are starting to really understand, because we have been getting cross-gen games longer this time around than we did the previous generations, like the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360 generation going into the PS4 and Xbox One. If you remember that generation, it was literally cross-gen games started to die off after the first 2 years of the Xbox One and PS4. But right now, we're already now 4 years into the Series X and PS5's life cycle, already going on to 5, and there are some developers that are still saying, okay, yeah, we could be making some extra profit if we put that game on an Xbox One and PlayStation 4. And even to an extent, Activision Call of Duty is still coming out for PS4 and Xbox One. And surprisingly, it's actually working surprisingly good, especially on the PlayStation 4 systems. Now, the PlayStation 4 Pro, I watched Digital Foundry's video the other day, and Black Ops 6 absolutely plays almost a consistent 60 frames a second on the PlayStation 4 Pro, and almost to an extent on the base PS4 as well, but it does have some tiny bit of hiccups. But that's another area that we have to talk about too, is like they were able to get the game to still perform and look decent on the PlayStation 4 consoles. So, yeah. And then you got to think, with all the layoffs that we've been having and the Xbox One and PS4 having the same architecture, the x86 that's pretty much the same as the Series X and PS5, it's just not really that hard for developers to just make the same games, or make the games for the last gen consoles, but just lower the graphical and textures and all that. Like, it's just not as hard as you would expect. So it all this stuff really adds up. And yeah, there's possibly another 1, maybe 2 years that we might start seeing games coming on the last gen consoles. I do think that we're going to eventually get to the point where it is not going to happen no more. I mean, I just think that in another year or two, we're probably are going to eventually just completely not see hardly any more games coming on the last gen consoles, because at that point it wouldn't make no sense, because, well, the PlayStation 6 and the next generation Xbox is actually right around the corner at that time, like in 2026, 2027. But then again, the PlayStation 4 is still just a popular beast of a machine, and there's just still people that play it and buy games for it. So in reality, it just really helps the developers to make more money, especially with how high game budgets are going up. And honestly, I would say it's very, very smart. Now, I'm somebody that still plays on our PlayStation 4 Pro on top of our PlayStation 5, and to be quite frankly, I kind of play our PS4 Pro a little bit more than our PlayStation 5 due to the storage reasons, because Sony just had to not, they just had to not put a full 1 terabyte, or at least, better yet, a 2 terabyte console, or 2 terabyte storage, I should say, in their PlayStation 5s. Like, if you get a slim PlayStation 5, you're guaranteed with a full 1 terabyte. But if you have an OG PS5, like the 2 models that we have, which you can see one right there, they only have 825 gigs. But when you got to use some of that space for the software and the UI and such like that, you're basically only getting 667 gigabytes total. Now, that's definitely not a lot. And if Sony should have put at least a 1 terabyte minimum inside of the console, and then right there you would at least had 200 extra plus gigs right now, just like the Xbox Series X has. And honestly, that's why I hope for Christmas or something on top of our birthday and everything coming up, that honestly I hope that we do get the storage 1 terabyte for a PlayStation 5, that you could just take the console apart and put that SSD in, because I'm telling you, it is definitely a really, really annoying. It's annoying just having to delete, reinstall, even if you're somebody that has really good internet and you could just install a game within 1 hour that's like 100 gigs. It's still annoying as crap to continue to delete, reinstall, delete, install, back to back. So, yeah, I think Sony should have at least put a full 1 terabyte into the console rather than 825 gigs. Now, I know that SSD storages do cost a lot compared to regular hard drives, but honestly, Sony's got a lot of money in the bank. They definitely could have put a 1 terabyte inside of the launch PlayStation 5 models kind of like what Microsoft did with the Series X, because if you get a Series X, you're granted with a full 1 terabyte, and you have a total of close to 800 gigs worth of storage to install games on. Whereas the PlayStation 5, you're basically only left with pretty much 660 gigs. So really almost 150 gig difference right there. So yeah, so that's kind of like why, in a way, why I still play my PlayStation 4 Pro a good bit of the time, is because of crap right there. And I'm telling you, it's just annoying. And then people say you could just play and buy a hard drive for your PS5, but it's like, this is not what they said. They literally said, both Microsoft and Sony has said before the PlayStation 5 and Series X launch that you cannot use hard drives for current gen games. You cannot play current gen games on hard drives. They have to be your requirement SSDs. And I honestly don't think that's what they don't get at. Is they don't get that you gotta have the right requirement SSDs in order to play current gen games on the PlayStation 5 and Series X. You gotta have the right SSDs. So you can't just simply buy a hard drive and then expect the games to work, because it's going to say this is not compatible with this storage. So even then, at this point, it's just really useless to even buy a hard drive just to play previous gen games on a new gen system that's literally going to do the exact same, look the exact same as a PlayStation 4 Pro. So in reality, you're just better off to play with the PlayStation 4 Pro at this point, rather than buy a hard drive and plug it in your PS5 and just play the same experience. Load times, graphical capabilities, it's just honestly just not right. Unless you have an SSD and such and you're playing those games off of, then it is definitely going to be different, because you're going to get load times better, and also game textures are going to load in quicker and not have as much pop in. So really, in reality, you're just better off to play on a PS5 off of an SSD. But other than that, yeah, I just think that PlayStation 4 is still insanely popular, and I see why developers are still wanting to make games on there. At least some developers, not all developers, are doing it. Ubisoft has actually started to not only... Ubisoft is what I'm trying to say, has stopped making games for last-gen consoles. Like, if you look at Assassin's Creed Shadows, that game is only going to come to the current gen, and Assassin's Creed Mirage, that came out last year, was the last game in the Assassin's Creed series that came out on last gen. And like I also expected, honestly, last gen, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and to an extent, even the base PS4, going upward to the PS5, I mean, you really ain't going to see a huge graphical difference anyway. And I think we're starting to get to that point where graphics, we're just starting to get to the ceiling part where the graphics are going to start only getting tinier and tinier and tinier difference, and then they're going to hit that wall, and then that's going to be it. So I do essentially think that we are starting to get to end of a brick wall when it comes to graphics. I think that the next generation consoles is probably going to be the last bit in which we are going to see graphics not look hardly any different going forward, because truthfully, they're just so good as it already is. I mean, heck, games already look good on the PlayStation 5, and even to an extent, even the PlayStation 4, even the base PS4. Like, if you look at games like Uncharted 4, Horizon Zero Dawn, freaking God of War 2018, and even cross-gen games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War Ragnarok, those games still look pretty darn good in detail, even on a base PlayStation 4. So, even then, I really just don't think that the graphics are going to get very much better in the next generation. And we're actually kind of hearing a lot about that with the PlayStation 5 Pro that just came out today. If you didn't know, yeah, the PlayStation 5 Pro was just released today, and a lot of people are saying that, yeah, there's not very much of a difference. You're really going to not even see a difference at all with that, and we're still debating on it, rather if we should upgrade to the PS5 Pro next year or not. And it's a tough choice right now, because honestly what gets us is the fact that it has 2 terabytes of storage. You get enhanced PS4 games, but even people are saying no, it's still not going to be that much. So you just let us know in the comment section down below if we should get the PS5 Pro or if we should just stick with our 2 OG model PlayStation 5s. So just let us know what you think. But yeah, the PlayStation 4, honestly, this generation is a little bit different than last generation, from the 360 PS3 to the PS4 and Xbox One. And honestly, the reason why is because, well, game budgets are going up, and developers want to make as much money and sell as many copies as they can. And two, with the consoles running the base, like, same architecture, x86, it's just, at this point, it's just like, why would we just take the why would we not make games on that console, or that last gen consoles, I should say, and make less profit? So that's essentially what I think is going on. And then when you gotta look at all the layoffs, it's like, yeah, gaming's just not looking superb right now. So honestly, I think I could honestly get why some developers are still wanting to make games on the last gen consoles, so that way they can make that money back, because of how much game budgets are going up, and because how the consoles are running on the same architecture, and with all the layoffs and all that stuff, it's just really adding up. So yeah, and then also with people not wanting to upgrade to another thing, that are still just rocking with their Xbox Ones or PlayStation 4s, because essentially they just don't see the reasoning to it. And graphical capabilities are also another area. They're not that much substantially different like before, when we went from the PS1 to the PS2 and then the PS2 to the PS3. Gaming's not the same as it was like 10, 20 years ago. I'll just put it that way. It is not the same as it was 10, 20 years ago. So, yeah. But, yeah, I think that developers making games still on the last gen consoles and such, I mean, yeah, it does suck that games are not coming up permanently on the current gen. But then again, you have to look at it from a business and the developer perspective, and especially with all the layoffs and such, it's just not really looking good. So, but that's going to pretty much wrap it up for this video. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If you could, smack that like button and subscribe if you're new to this channel, and we will keep you posted with more content like this in the future. And also let us know in the comment section down below if you agree with us about the reasoning why some developers are still making games for PlayStation 4, and how, if they have the option, I still think that they should hold on to it for as long as they possibly can, probably within another year or two and such. But yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this video, and minus the whole update, just to give you another update real quick. Like I stated at the beginning of the video, we might be moving back into our old complex that we recently, a little while ago, lived in. But we won't know for 100% sure, but it may not happen. But at this point, it's most likely going to. And either today or tomorrow is when we're going to officially hear if we're going to be getting it or not. But who knows? But just wanted to make that also before ending the video. And this could be our very last video for a while as the webcam. But rate, comment, and subscribe. And we shall see you guys on the next video. Peace.